Alright, welcome back. Today we will be installing the Greenbone Vulnerability Scanner. Greenbone Vulnerability Scanner, I believe it was formerly OpenVAS, or I'm not entirely sure of the history there. But Greenbone Vulnerability Scanner is an open source vulnerability scanning and management solution. Essentially, it allows you to identify security issues found on devices on your network, sort of passively. It does an active scan, but it doesn't require like an agent that you install on all your stuff. Basically, you just set it on your network. You tell it where to scan, which your subnet or different IPs, and then it'll go out and it'll scan those. You can provide admin login credentials, so like SSH credentials. You can provide Windows credentials. You can provide credentials that basically allow it to sort of like log in and get that sort of extra visibility into what kind of vulnerabilities you have. For instance, say somebody happened to get password to your server and they got SSH access to your server. What vulnerabilities can they now exploit? So it's pretty cool. Greenbone has a web interface that you can use to configure, run. Basically everything that you do in Greenbone is going to be through the web interface, the web UI. You can set it up to schedule, so you can run sort of periodic scans every week. You can set it up to send notifications when high or a specific severity is found. You can set it up so you get essentially, the way I have mine set up is I get weekly PDF reports. So it emails me a report in PDF every week, and I can review that. All right, so I'm going to include the Greenbone official website, the documentation site, in the description. But it's actually pretty simple. Basically, we're just going to, we already have Docker installed here, right? So we can just make sure, yep, we've got Docker installed. And so essentially all we need to do is run this command. So what it's going to do is it's going to download the Docker Compose YAML file. So we'll paste that in. Downloaded the file. There we are right here. And all we have to do is Docker Compose up HD. So D is just going to run it in detached mode. So there are a lot of packages, a lot of containers within our Greenbone Docker Compose or Docker project here. So it's going to probably take a bit of time to pull all of them. So I would just recommend just be patient, wait, eventually come back to it in 10 minutes or so, and you should see that it is up and running. All right, looks like we are rounding the corner now. All right, finally done downloading. Now we are starting all the containers. We can run Docker PS, and we can look here, we can see. All right, perfect. So now we can change our password. We're gonna go ahead and change it to, I think by default, the password is admin, or admin password or something like that. It doesn't matter because you should not be using the default password. You can very easily just change the default password with this quick little command here. Right now I'm using a terrible password. I'd recommend that you don't. Probably use a password that isn't terrible. I'll include this in the description as well. So we'll go ahead and run this. Let's see. Modifying user password. This is then that it updated the password, and we'll jump into one thing we need to take note of here is you may notice that it shows, here's our ports, right? It shows this local address here. That means it is only accessible on that local address. So that means I can only actually ever get to the web portal through this host. This is a Docker server host, essentially. No web browser. So it's not going to work if you try and hit this from another machine on your local network. We need to open this up. We need to basically get rid of this designation here, and essentially that will open it up. So that will expose it on all interfaces that will allow it available on our local network that we can jump into it. So all we have to do is just nano docker compose. So under the GSA image, all we need to do is get rid of that IP and colon, right? So boom, 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 all set. So we'll save that, close. Now we're gonna go Docker down and then back up again, right? So Docker compose down. Give that a second. Okay, so now all we need to do is bring it back up. Docker compose up. We're gonna run it in detached mode, so -D again. All right, starting. We're gonna wait for these other two containers that seem to take a long time. All right, it looks like we are all set. We can clear yes here and just look at that. So now it's showing all zeros. Quad 0 means we are accessible. Basically, we can hit this from a web browser on our machine, on our local network. All right, so we have Greenbone opened up. So essentially, we are just running on this is the local IP of my Docker host that we installed on. Same port as was before listed in the Docker compose file. That's 9392. And we can log in. So we'll do admin. And then the password I set was a terrible one. And now we're in. I'm not going to jump into, in this video, how to configure Greenbone. I'm not really going to go through it really much. I just want to show you feeds. So if we go to administration and we go to feed status here, you can see that we are doing an update on some of these, right? So the SCAP feed, the CERT feed, and the GVMD data feed, those are all updating. Now, depending on your system, it could take a bit. It could take a little while. So I would recommend giving it an hour or two and coming back. Oh, look at that. They finished. Oh, no, okay, never mind. Yeah, I would personally recommend, yeah, that would have been weird if it was that fast. It's normally, for me, even on a fast system, I mean, it's got to download quite a bit. Even for me on a fast system, I've been looking at maybe half an hour, maybe 15 minutes. But I'd recommend just, a watch pot never boils. So if you want, you can keep looking at it, or you can elect to come back on a different day or come back an hour later. And you should see that these are all updated. In another video, I will show how to automatically update these feeds every night. In the middle of the night. So basically in an automated fashion. So you don't have to sit here and wait for that. Every time you wake up in the morning, your feeds will always be the latest available. This is not a thing that Greenbone has built in, although they should. But this is sort of essentially just a cron job that we've set up to run every night. It takes the containers down, brings them back up, does a little bit of extra stuff in there too to make sure everything's good. We've got it set up so that it runs, and when it finishes, it'll send a notification to NTFY. So if you use NTFY, I'd recommend that. There's another video probably coming soon on how to set that up. It's basically just a pub sub open source notification system. They have applications that you can download on your phone on iOS and Android, native applications that support push notifications. You can essentially add notifications to scripts, and that's what that is. It's a script that's it's a cron job that takes down the containers, brings them back up, and downloads all the newest feeds when they come back up. So stay tuned for that.